Coming to you live from the internet, it's Mouth Before Brain! On today's show, Esther interviews Gerald Ong, entrepreneur and YouTuber. We talk about how he started his first company and how the pandemic has affected his business. Also, we hear from Gerald himself why he became a full-time employee instead of a business owner. But did Gerald go back to being a boss? Find out on today's episode of Mouth Before Brain!
Hi everyone, I'm Esther and I have with me Gerald today. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. Just a bit of background. Anyway, why we decided to do a podcast is really for fun, because when my good friend and I would be having dinner conversations in a restaurant, a cafe, whatever, we find that the people around us would always be listening. So from there, I thought, hey, why not? If they're interested in our conversations, let's do a podcast and just see where it takes us. Just try something. Anyway, and I thought a podcast instead of YouTube because my face would not be on it. And so there's less pressure. I can name myself whatever I want and then just, have a conversation about it. So yes, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. So today we're going to talk about being employed versus being an entrepreneur. And you started your own business really early, I think when you were 18 with your badminton academy.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can tell us what made you decide to start your own badminton academy at the age of 18? Yes.
Right. So, to be honest, I had it wasn't my honest intention to start a badminton academy. So back then, actually, my dad is also a badminton coach. I helped my dad to teach over the weekends, and there were some things that I didn't quite agree with how he's doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, I felt that it was affecting scalability.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I was like, hey, I think we should change the way we do our bookkeeping, the way we hire, the way we do our operations. And he was like, if you're so good, do yourself lah. And I was like,
I see.
Why not, right? So then that's when I started to work it out on my own. And yeah, so eventually, as the academy grew, I basically became the bigger business now. So that's how it happened.
I see. So it was like a challenge issued.
Yeah, pride thing.
A pride thing, I see. Okay, well, but it's gotten you this far. So when you set up your own academy at that age and then going through a business course in SMU, was it?
Mm-hmm.
So how did it change the way you ran your academy? I mean, studying business, was there any carryover into your what's happening?
Right. So I think how academic education have affected the way I think about running a business is that I think it gives perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think academia really prepares one for like working in MNCs, I feel. So by having that perspective, I have a much clearer vision. Okay, so this is how big businesses operate. This is roughly how they segment the divisions, their focus, how they would, have how the people in HR would think, how the people in marketing would think, how the people in ops would think. Whereas when I did everything on my own, I have no perspective and understanding, so this is how a big organization thinks, and we as a small company should try to strive for something a little bit more structured. So basically, we were kind of like a headless chicken running around trying to figure out how we can piece things together randomly, but just having someone show you a complete picture. This is how the puzzle looks like. You can build it according to the puzzle, or adapt and improve on the puzzle. So it makes things a lot clearer for me as I'm
so like gave you a framework and look at the different pieces of what a business can be on such a large scale, and then kind of like scale it downwards to your own business. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay,
That's a very
great.
good
I mean, I
summary.
always thought that, business theories and then running your own business would be very, very different. And my uncle once said, if the business lecturers, okay, no offense like to all the business lecturers, right? But if they were so good, they would be running their own business. They won't be teaching it. And I'm like, I'm sure some business lecturers run their own businesses too. So yes. Okay, and then what made you decide to get a full-time job then? I believe last year in 2020, you took on a full-time job. So what made you, do that?
Right. So again, it is not my intention to want to get a full-time job, but back when COVID struck, right? And the nature of my business is that we are a badminton academy. We teach people how to play badminton through YouTube, and the other business is in person. So when COVID struck, the shutdown happened not just in Singapore but globally. People stopped watching badminton YouTube videos. So the YouTube channel was quite badly hit.
Okay.
And in terms of the Singapore landscape, they used the badminton hall for vaccination. So practically the halls were not usable. So
Okay.
revenue practically dropped to zero for a couple of months. And then the question is, what happens to our staff? Do we let go of team members and so forth? So what happened was that I wanted to keep everyone on the team, so we tightened our belt, and then that's when in order to ensure that we can survive through like phase one, right? I actually went to find a job, and hopefully can tide through this difficult time as a team, because the company is kind of like my family, right? So I don't want anybody to be affected by this.
So I take it that COVID was the main reason you kind of took a full-time job. So let's talk about full-time job now. I mean, you ran your own business and then you have had a full-time job. How was the full-time job compared to running your own business? So maybe let's focus on like the differences. Like maybe three big differences of being an employee versus running your own business.
Three big differences. I think the first most obvious difference is structure. Yeah, so the good thing about structure, it's pros and cons, right? The first difference is structure. Good thing about structure is that it keeps you very focused. Like, hey, you need to meet this KPI, this target. If not, boss will scold you, not get promoted. Yada yada yada.
Okay.
Whereas when it comes to running your own business, you set the target, and then the question becomes what target you want to set. And if you make a mistake, literally no one puts you, right, unless you have like an investor. So then in terms of structure, it becomes a lot more fluid. COVID struck, let's change our targets. So that's I think the key thing. Structure is very different. Then I think the second key variable is a sense of security, I think. Like when I was running my own business, right, there's always this very strong paranoia. Like, hey, someone out there is really trying to steal my lunch every single day. If I don't work hard, I don't try to grow the business, someone will steal my lunch. Whereas in a job, what happens is that, hey, if I don't work hard, my boss will scold me. So it wasn't so much of, fear of losing my job, but rather, just want to please my boss, don't get scolded, avoiding pain. And I wasn't really worried that anything would happen to my job. I felt very secure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the third one.
Okay, let's pause here before you move
Yeah.
on to the third one. Maybe let's go back to the first one that you identified, like structure. And you mentioned that your targets were set by your boss, and if you didn't meet that, that you might not get your promotion.
Yeah.
So it's, I just want to ask. So when you went into the job, were you thinking of it as a temporary thing, because promotion, it sounds like it's like slightly longer term. So in that, was it that going to a full-time job, therefore it's almost like expected that that's the way you would go, versus having your own business where every day you just look at, not every day, well, definitely not every day, but you decide, or you just look forward and see where you want your business to be. So is that the structure that you're talking about, like?
Right. So what do you mean by by structure?
Yeah, like so when you're employed, right? It's almost as if once you get employed, there is something that is set out for you. If you come in at a grade 1 officer, and then you strive for grade 2, strive for grade 3. Is that the kind of structure you're talking about, like being employed?
Yes. So structure in terms of progression, structure in terms of the work that you do, structured in basically your day to day in the company.
Okay, so it's not fluid because it's kind of the way the company works is the way the company works, and you are just a piece of that bigger puzzle. Okay, and then in your own business, you kind of get to, because you do everything, right? So that okay, and with security, I hear you that the biggest difference would be that you're always kept on your toes when you are your own boss, so to speak. And okay, let's move on to the third thing.
Okay.
The third biggest difference.
I haven't thought that far, actually.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Okay. And so after, was it how many months then you decided that it was not working out? How many months was it that you decided it was not working out?
Um, Actually, to be very, very honest, if the job was good, right, the intention was to work maybe like 8 to 6,
Okay.
then try to juggle my business on the side.
Okay, okay.
And the nature of my badminton academy is that it's actually quite automated. We have a team. So then I don't actually have to put in crazy amount of hours. So I was trying to see if I enjoy the job, it is good, the career prospects is good. I don't mind actually working a job. Yeah, so it's not like I have anything hard up against
I see.
working for a
Okay.
company, right?
Okay.
But I think the issue was that particular company that I worked with, they basically had a shortage of staff. So we had to basically do multiple people's workload,
Okay.
and that made working hours very long and meeting targets very stressful somewhat. So then as a result, I think I often would work till like 10, 11 to midnight, 1 a.m. sometimes. Weekends I often need to work. And you don't get paid OT once you reach a managerial type of salary, right?
Yes.
That's first. Then secondly, I was also newlywed. I just married my wife then. Then it was taking a huge toll on the relationship. Hey, imagine, you just get married, but you can't have dinner every day. You work from home, but you're working, in front of the computer from 8 a.m. all the way to 1 a.m. at night. So what happens to your wife? So then once you do this over a period of time, the relationship gets strained. Not to mention, during the weekends when I'm actually available, say on Sunday, the entire day is spent working on my business. So
your own business, yes.
yeah, so it was really, really stressful. Managing, trying to keep the business alive, and actually making my relationship work. So then, out of all three things, right, business, relationship, and my employment, which one should I let go? So based on how I see things, employment was the one that was most easily replaceable. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And so that was your decision to go back to being your own boss. And so how has that worked out
Well,
for you? I remember in the first week, right after after your last day at work, you were really, really exhilarated. You're like, yay, I have back my own time. So has being employed and juggling both, and then after that now coming back to your own business, has that given you a different perspective of things?
yeah, definitely. Like, I realized I'm actually a very lenient and relaxed kind of boss.
Okay, okay.
So, in my company, right, like, here's the thing. I honestly felt that if I were to really, 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 really squeeze everything, I could have made everything work. But then that would mean that I'm a very, very bad employee. Yeah, and it's kind of like ethics and pride that I do not want to do a subpar kind of job. So you did do it properly or you don't do it at all. And yeah, so that's why that's when I decided, and that's what made me very stressful.
I see.
I want to do a good job, but I want to manage everything. But I can't manage everything. I can't do a good job at everything. So that's put a lot of pressure on me. Not to mention, company has politics, right? Big company. Whereas my own business, because I'm the boss, I do not feel the threat of the politics. There probably is, just that I don't feel it as much. So that's the issue with the bigger company that I'm really feeling or not used to, that stress.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I got my freedom, I was like, wow, finally, don't have the issue of politics. I can actually make everything work and do things properly.
Okay.
So yeah, but I think my wife initially was very against the idea. I was like, hey, you work 3 months, you want to quit. Why not work 6 months, get an extra, I don't know, 30, for, like grand, maybe take your first bonus,
Yes.
etc. before changing job. Buy a house first when you can get huge amount of loans. Yeah, and I was like, nah, I'll make things work. So I just took a plunge while my business haven't really recovered from COVID yet. Yeah, so that was really, really scary.
Okay, okay. So you said that you realized that you were a very relaxed boss, and have you tweaked that? I mean, given that being an employee and your boss, obviously was very much more maybe strict and had a very clear or high demand. So has that changed the way you work as your own boss?
Yeah, so it definitely has. Ever since I came back from the full-time job, I started to implement a lot more target setting and basically team management practices that I learned from the big company. It did help the team become a lot more focused. But there is a huge constraint because I think my business have been built over like several years. So some of our employees are like old school, right? So
I see.
you can't just change the whole culture of the company after you disappear for 3 months, come back,
Yes.
hey, I want to change the whole company's culture.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, I'm slowly trying to move it towards a much more high growth, kind of attitude within the company.
Okay.
But everyone's still very relaxed. I mean, after all, badminton business is generally quite chill, right? You
Okay.
teach classes, you have fun. Yeah, so
Okay, okay. So I'm glad things have worked out
mhm,
and that you're really happy right now. So maybe you can tell us a bit about your this coaching business that you have
mhm,
started up. I think it's like picked up in the past few months, working on it. So
yeah.
maybe you can tell us a bit more about that.
Right. So basically, I have two businesses. The first is a badminton YouTube channel. Actually, it's lumped under Gerald Media.
Okay.
So it's all the media related companies
Okay.
together. So my personal finance, badminton YouTube. The second, which is what you're asking, is the Badminton Academy in Singapore. So
I see.
basically, what we do is we teach kids and adults how to learn how to play better badminton safely. So I think it stems from the fact that as a professional badminton player, I was one of the few that really really loved the sport. A lot of my friends played because parents want them to play. Yeah, and then they went to sports school. Now you're forced to play
Yes,
five
you don't
six
have a
times.
choice. Yes.
Yeah, so then I realized I think what could have made a big difference is if that their coach really valued the passion in the sport. And I was very lucky that in sports school, my Coach Bashri, he was very passionate about badminton, and that spilled over to me. So even till today, I really love the sport. And I want to kind of spread that passion with others, right? So that when they learn badminton, it's not just about the DSA, it's not just about keeping healthy, it's really the passion to want to be better, enjoy a good game, have a tough rally and come out slightly victorious, or you lose that point and try again. Yeah, so you really enjoy badminton as a sport. So that's what our academy is about.
How about your investment coaching business? I mean, now I think that with COVID and, I think this generation, we are really experiencing an economic downturn. And so much of the world has been turned upside down, especially, you always, people always thought, if you're an employee, in a bank, you will always be taken care of. But I think during this pandemic, that's not so set in stone anymore. And so investment has become a big thing because it's a way of making money
Yeah.
that is not tied to your 8 to 5, 9 to 5 job. And so how is that business, how did you get into it, and how is that business doing right now?
So when you mention this, the first thing I think about is it because Netflix don't have enough shows?
Well, Netflix doesn't earn you money; you pay for Netflix. So it would be great to have, I think, a passive income. I think for people, investment, it always comes across as a passive income.
Yeah.
That even if your main job is, takes a hit, you
Yeah.
still have that you can turn to. That your boss, you don't have a boss there. Yeah. So is that why you got into investment, or like why?
Uh, Actually, I think, well, this is a very long story. Okay, let me try to keep this as short as I can. So
Okay.
when I started, right, how it happened was that my family actually went through very tough times. There was a period of time where my family was bankrupt.
Okay.
So we had the foreclosure, the bank came down and put those stickers to take all our furniture. So it was
Yes.
a very, very scary time in my life. I think I was
see.
12 back then.
Okay.
So yeah, and that put a huge impression on me, right? That
Okay.
hey, I want to make sure that my family is financially secure. So I always lacked that sense of security. Hey, will I ever get to that point? What if I get sick in Singapore? And die lah. All your money goes to the hospital, etc. So then, I wanted to get wealthy. Yeah, then that's when I started to read books, because that's one of the best places you can learn. Then that's how I came across, learn from the giants, like people like Warren Buffett. You learn about value investing, Tony Robbins, how to actually manage your wealth, master your wealth. Then I started to have a deep passion for managing my wealth, because I can make myself feel very secure in my finance. Because if I know how to manage my money, I know how to protect myself with insurance, I know how to grow my investments, then I don't have to worry about health issues, financial. At least if anything happens to me, I know that my family is taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would basically never come to a point in my life that I once had before.
Okay.
So that's really what I wanted to give to my family. So that's how I started reading and learning about investing.
Okay.
And yeah, the more I learned, the more I started to gain confidence, and I really enjoyed it. So I started to talk about it in my personal finance channel.
That's on
And
YouTube, right?
yes.
That's okay.
yeah, so then people started to learn that, hey, Jerry, you have very good principles. I really enjoy your talk about being frugal, living within your means, learning how to grow your wealth safely. Now, not so basically, invest without actually risking losing your entire capital.
Okay.
And if you want to speculate, here are some places where you can speculate, but make sure you keep it within like 1%, 2% of your portfolio.
Okay.
If you do options, keep it within 5% each position. So basically managing your money so that you don't ever end up a position where you're broke.
So the channel started off from like a personal sharing about what you
Yeah.
had learned. Okay, and I hear that some of your listeners or your people, your audience have reached
Yeah.
out to you to say, "Hey, can you teach me?" And I think that's how the coaching started out. And
Yeah.
I know that you were a bit hesitant at first. So right now, as you are embarking on that coaching business, what do you hope for it?
Well, I think the main goal of the coaching is that I hope like MLM, one spread to five, five spread to 25.
Okay. So just to be clear, it's spreading of the coaching of the knowledge.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Not to start
Okay.
an MLM.
Okay. Okay. I think that's great. I think that personally, investing has always been a black hole for me simply because when I was younger, I heard a lot of stories. My uncle, my relatives, just going into investing or stocks, without very clear knowledge of what to do and then losing a few $100,000. And so
Ouch.
to me, investing always had that, oh my goodness, don't do it because you will lose all your money. So I think that having heard you share about investing has given me a different perspective about what investment is and what it can do for for me personally. And so just thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And I do hope that the knowledge will keep passing on. It's like a very dramatic, but like a flame of a candle that you pass it on to the next person, and then the world becomes a little bit brighter. I think that during the pandemic, when everyone's a bit worried about finances and how to make ends meet, for some families, I think talking about financial literacy and investment is a great thing. So thank you so much for spending time with us and for sharing your personal story. We hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you. You're too kind.
Thank you.
Thank you.